So if you were to get the Avata Goggles combo, it will come with either the FPV Goggles V2 or the Goggles 2. I am so gonna get the names wrong way around, so bear with me. Because in this episode, I'm gonna help you decide which goggles is right for you. What's up fam, Rahim here and welcome to another TGIF episode. Now for those new to the channel, usually I have episodes on Tuesdays, but I feel I got a lot to talk about lately, and so let's make Fridays a thing, alright? So anyways, I'm currently reviewing the DJI Avata, and this drone comes with two different types of goggles. So I'm wondering, if I was new to FPV and I wanted to get this drone, so which goggle, or should I say, how do I choose which goggle combo that is right for me? So I'm gonna try my best to be totally neutral, and hopefully this will help you decide on which pair of goggles is right for you. There are already many episodes out there reviewing the individual goggles, so this episode will instead be a comparison of them, and also I'll share a bit more about my experience using them. At the end of the episode, I'll also share about their integration to DIY FPV, and I'll put links in the description if you want to know about the technical specifications. Alright, let's get to it. So on your left is the FPV Goggles V2, and on your right is the new Goggles 2. Now, it's already noticeable that the V2s are bigger, bulkier, and it sits heavier front on the head. So that's why it's like a must to get this battery clip so that you can mount the bat at the rear to kind of give it a better weight distribution. It came with a strap that runs an additional belt on top, but I did change it out to this aftermarket strap. The original strap is supposed to help with better fitting to manage the weight, but I just didn't like that the center strap will be messing up my hair. That's about it. There are 4 antennas on the Goggles V2 that will need to be unscrewed at every session. I have this fear that I may break these antennas or the connections if I were to leave it in this form in my bag. So yeah, having to screw it and unscrew it every single session is kinda becoming a chore. The Goggles 2 instead comes at a way better weight, around 25 grams lighter actually, than my V2 setup, and has a slimmer form factor. They already come out of the box with a single strap, and there is also no need to balance the weight distribution since the goggles are now lighter. The battery and the cable on the Goggles 2 is slightly different, where it's now this kind of springy cable, and there is actually a clip at the end of the cable where you can just slot it in and it clips on to the notch on the battery. I found this cable to be of good length and flexible enough for me to keep this battery inside my pants pocket without any fear that any side of the connection may come off. The antennas of the Goggles 2 fold, and this makes it a very easy package to stow away once done. On fitment wise, both goggles come with this hard foam, and I find them more comfortable on the Goggles 2. Alright, the venting system of both goggles do a great job, but on a hot day, sweat does accumulate at the bottom, and so I've changed the foam of the V2s to aftermarket sponge foams, which are more better for comfort and also washable. Now these are also able to accommodate my large specs just fine. Okay, let me just try to squeeze in here. Whereas even if they were aftermarket foams on the Goggles V2, I doubt that they will be able to fit inside the goggles. You see, my specs are already wider than the goggles itself. And that's where DJI solved this, where any user will be able to adjust his or her degree to suit their needs. But here's something that I want to bring up. Even though they are adjustable, I don't use them because my degrees are on the high side of like 675 left and 825 right. So there's no such thing as estimations for me. It's gonna be straining, especially when I'm doing long flights for filming. So a big thanks go to HonsVR for sending me a set of diopters. They are prescription diopters, by the way, and they fit the adapters that came with the Goggles 2 perfectly, and they have really made me enjoy working with this pair of goggles. And they are drone pilots, by the way, so they know their shit. A big thanks guys, much appreciate the love. Now go check them out, HonsVR, for your prescription diopters. Links in the description. Alright guys, it just started raining heavily outside, and there's a lot of pitter-patter outside my window right now, so just bear with me with the audio for a while. So anyways, this next feature is actually absent on the V2s. Now for the Goggles 2, when you take them off, there is actually a sensor here that would switch off the display to conserve your battery life when you take them off, and would just power back up when it senses that the goggles are back on your head. And also when you're packing up the Goggles 2, there are lens caps that you can actually just wedge in place, while for the Goggles V2, these I had to 3D print myself. So here's where we get into the software or interface side of things. For the controls, the Goggles 2 have upgraded to a touchpad, but honestly I kinda prefer the tactile buttons on the V2. I will always know where my back and record buttons are, and the joystick makes for very easy navigation of the menu. The touchpad of the Goggles 2 are a bit fiddly, but there are way more Goggle menus. Interface on the main menu is more or less the same, but here are the additional menus on the Goggles 2. Swiping up from the bottom gives you quick access to the camera settings, and swiping down from the top has your record and head tracker buttons. Head tracker is a really cool feature, especially with the motion controller which is included and nobody cares about, and I'll cover that in a future episode. About what you see in the Goggles 2 actually has higher resolution than the V2, but honestly I can't tell the difference. It's just awesome either way. Both can also project out by cable to a mobile phone for an external viewer, but now the Goggles 2, I am able to choose to have or not to have the drone's OSD data in the DVR. So now let's talk a bit about the compatibility of these goggles to drones. Beyond the fact that both these goggles can link up to the Avata, the line is very clear separating these two. Right now, the V2s are for the current air units and Vistas that are in the DIY drone builds, while the Goggles 2 are for the unreleased and still rumored new versions of the air units. Sure, there have been leaks, but as long as it's not official, it's a rumor. There has been so much talk about making it backwards compatible, but there has not been any confirmation of actual firmware to support that, so I'm waiting just the same. I'm just gonna mention that I also saw a pic that not only is the Goggles 2 able to link to the DJI FPV, but also other drones like the Mavic 3 and Mini 3. But I believe it's only if they are on the OcuSync 3 transmission. Again, we'll have to wait and see with the firmware updates. Okay, let me just summarize a bit. To keep things simple, the V2s just work. Now a few upgrades here and there and you'll have a great working pair of goggles that will serve you well. Now if you wanted to get into the DIY FPV side of things, right, the market there is well saturated with kits that are ready with either the air unit or Vistas, and even if you wanted to go the N-lock route, you can always just buy an N-lock adapter and fix it onto the goggles. But if you're thinking of moving forward into the unknown with a smaller form factor, latest technology and advancements of the DJI digital system, and of course if you're willing to bear with the higher price tag, then the Goggles 2 is the way to go. So right now I've stated as much as I can with my experiences working with these two goggles. Now I want to hear from you. Leave me a comment about what you think is your choice of goggles. And with that, I'm gonna wrap it up right here. Now if you've liked this episode, do give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not already, chat with me, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Pilots, as always, I'll see you in the skies. Peace.